The thermos was still warm when I set it down by my tent, but the day's heat was already fading fast into a bitter cold that could quickly lead to hypothermia once the sun disappeared. We had come to this frozen lake for ice fishing, a day trip we'd made countless times before, and everything felt normal at first. However, it's crucial to remember that ice thickness can vary greatly across a body of water, even on what appears to be a safe frozen surface. Always check local ice conditions and follow guidelines set by authorities to ensure safety. But as night fell and the stars emerged like tiny pinpricks in a black velvet sky, I started noticing things that weren't quite right. The snow was unusually dry underfoot, with no crunch or squish to signal solid ground beneath. Every step left me questioning if the ice would hold my weight. It's crucial to check ice thickness before venturing onto frozen lakes. Safe ice for walking is typically at least 4 inches thick, but conditions can vary widely. Always carry an ice pick and wear a life jacket when crossing ice-covered water. No knife, no matches, no light. What now? I knew then we were in trouble. The first warning came when I walked back from setting up a small campfire by the shore. The flames had barely flickered against the wind, and the glow was weak compared to what it usually was. That's when I noticed my fishing rod tip into the water, just an inch of wetness at the base where it shouldn't have been. This indicated that the ice might be thin or starting to melt in spots, a critical sign to avoid venturing further out onto the lake and to stay near shore for safety. I pulled back sharply, but the ice cracked suddenly, sending shockwaves of icy water and panic through my body. The sharp, ominous cracking sound echoed around me as a clear warning to get away quickly. When on frozen lakes or ponds, always check for signs of thinning ice and be prepared to move swiftly to safer ground if you hear any cracking sounds. The night was silent except for the eerie creaking of the thinning ice underfoot. Every step felt precarious, and the thought of falling through into icy water was terrifying. Hypothermia can set in quickly in such conditions. I turned back to camp, trying not to let panic take over while moving cautiously. I sat by the flickering fire, my hands numb and my teeth chattering as the cold seeped into my bones. My friends huddled close, and though no one spoke, we all felt the unease. Something didn't feel right about this ice. It was too thin or had weak spots that could give way without warning. We knew better than to venture out onto questionable ice. Hypothermia and drowning were real dangers in cold water. The fire began to wane as I fought to maintain it. It required dry wood, but all that remained on the ground were wet patches from melting snow. Fuel was dwindling rapidly, and with no nearby trees for additional branches, finding kindling became urgent. In a survival situation like this, it's crucial to gather dry materials early and store them safely away from dampness or moisture to ensure you have readily available fire-starting resources when needed. "Here's what keeps you alive," I whispered into the dark. "Fire. But how do you build a fire in freezing cold when everything around is wet and frozen solid?" This wasn't like any fishing trip we'd ever taken before. We hadn't planned for this situation, and now it felt like our survival depended on quick thinking and preparation. Always remember to carry waterproof matches, fire starters, and dry tinder whenever you venture into the wilderness in cold conditions. Additionally, be aware of local ice safety regulations and seasonal guidelines. Walking on frozen lakes can be extremely dangerous without proper knowledge and precautions. The fire flickered out as I attempted to revive it with wet kindling. Darkness enveloped us completely, and the temperature dropped sharply. No stars shone through the thick cloud cover. In such conditions, finding a way back to dry land or seeking shelter from the elements is paramount. We had no signal on our phones, no bars for miles, and even if we could have called someone, it wouldn't matter. No one would be able to reach us in time anyway. "What now?" my friend whispered beside me, and that's when I realized how far away we were from any help. Immediate action was crucial. Hypothermia can set in quickly when exposed to cold water or air. Staying warm and dry while conserving energy until better resources or shelter could be found was essential. I started to notice strange sounds outside the camp, like snapping twigs that weren't from any human movement. It was hard to tell if it was just the wind or something else moving through the darkness. Every snap and crack made my heart race with fear, but I forced myself not to let panic take over. In situations like this, staying alert and assessing your surroundings carefully is crucial. That's when we spotted a wolf. A shadowy figure moved cautiously along the perimeter of our camp, observing us intently as if aware of the tension and unease among us. The frigid air made my breath visible in tiny puffs of vapor that lingered momentarily before dispersing. I pulled out a rock and hurled it at the animal, hoping to scare it away before it could get any closer. It let out a sharp cry and disappeared into the woods beyond, leaving me feeling on edge. We had no food left, just cold cans of fish and an empty thermos. Our only source of heat was the flickering embers of a dying fire. We had no shelter to protect us from the wind and impending snowfall. In such conditions, finding or building adequate shelter is crucial to prevent hypothermia and stay warm. The real risk was setting up camp on a frozen lake where the ice could suddenly give way. Each crack echoed ominously, seeming louder and closer with each passing moment. We needed to move, but every step carried the danger of plunging through thin or weak spots in the ice. Always assess ice thickness and quality before venturing onto frozen water, and be prepared for rapid evacuation if the ice starts to break. The extreme cold made it feel as if ice crystals were forming in my lungs with each breath, causing my skin to tingle painfully while burning from exposure. In such conditions, hypothermia can set in rapidly. It's crucial to seek shelter immediately and stay dry to prevent dangerous drops in body temperature. My friends were starting to drift off into half-sleep, their bodies fighting against the overwhelming chill as they tried to conserve what little energy remained. But there was no rest for us, not until we figured out how to survive this night. I got up and started pacing around the campsite, being extremely cautious with each step to avoid the potentially thin ice. Movement can help prevent hypothermia, but it's crucial to stay alert and avoid areas where the ice might be unstable or too thin. "Listen close," I said over my hunched shoulders. "This matters. Every second counted now. Hypothermia sets in rapidly once you're in cold water. The fire was our only hope, providing vital warmth against the cold and darkness. Remember, this is for education only. Foraging, hunting, and fishing carry real risks and are governed by local laws and seasons. Always verify plant and animal IDs with an expert, follow your local regulations, and never eat anything you can't 100% identify. Stay prepared, stay safe, and subscribe to the Survival Files for more.